So without further ado now, Dom, talk to us about websites.
Okay, hi everyone. Thank you, Lakshmi, and thanks to Margarita and Anastasia. That was all really good. I've heard these presentations before, but they're great every time. So, okay, so a little bit about myself. I graduated in computer science, and then I went into web design straight after uni. Thanks, Amber. And that's what I've been doing ever since. And we started Visual Synapses with Lakshmi about a year ago, just before the first pandemic. And here we are today. So as she mentioned, we're a design and developer duo. We're a purpose-driven business ourselves, and we really care for unique, accessible websites that, most importantly, will convert sales. And that's why we're all here. That's what inspired this event. So my first point today is that your user is an hungry drunk. And that probably will not be every user, but we're going to imagine there's at least one, okay? So that's going to be our lowest common denominator. So that's going to be someone who has like no idea how to use a website, and they don't want to negotiate with it. So if we can make their experience good, then anyone who's better at using a website than them, like they'll have a better journey. And this isn't a matter of accessibility, which is like a whole separate issue on the web, but it's a matter of user experience. So by creating that smooth journey, and that doesn't necessarily have to be a simplified journey, we make sure everyone has a good time, and therefore they go on to buy your product. So user experience. Yeah, I want you to think back. I want you to think if you've ever gone on a website and you left without buying anything or even without investigating any further. And that probably happened because something annoyed you. Something annoyed you enough to make you leave. And maybe it just took a really long time to load, or maybe you got a pop-up as soon as it loaded, just about when you're ready to go do something, and it stopped you in your tracks. And now I want you to think about websites that you like using. And that's not websites you have to use. So that's not going to be like Amazon or eBay or like any other giant company that's going to be afraid to update their menu because, literally thousands of people will complain about it. Something that's actually a joy to use. Like it loads fast. It's very obvious, like where you want to go and how to get there. So that's what we want to aim for. And we have to think about why is it this way. So the first point for that is a starting point for this would be organizing the information on your website. So you have to think about your homepage or any landing page that's the first point of contact with the user as an introduction to your business. And your customers will not be interested to know everything at once. They will be looking for these very specific bits of information. And this is great. This is great for us because you can selectively show off what makes you unique and what makes you right for them as a user or as a customer to you. And then you can identify which of your ethics are attractive to your customers and why they can be useful to them. And we'll talk about this in detail in a little bit as well. So I have an example for today. And while I talk about this, it would be great if you guys could put your own business websites in the chat, like share them with everyone. And then after the event, you can go and have a look at them. I'll come back to this as well. So this is also going back to my first point about user experience, so organizing information on your website. So my example for today is Vessi Footwear. And they have a great page layout. Like how they show off what they are and who they are is amazing. And as an example, this is their landing page. This is the home page. And this specific structure is very popular, and it works very well as a way to introduce the user to your page or to your business. And it isn't anything special, like you see this all over the internet, but I think they get this just perfectly right. So, yep, you have a clear title, you have a very short description, and you have an image that really drives that point home. And then you have some calls to actions to, get you where you want to get as quick as possible. Some more cool things about Vessi. They have no pop-up, which is amazing. But instead of that, they have a floating button that follows you wherever you go, which is really good because this puts the user in charge of their journey. Like you're letting the user know you want them to see something, but you're making them make the decision when they want to see it. And then, they have really consistent design that reflects their brand really well. So their website feels sporty, it feels like fresh and fun, but at the same time, it's very friendly. So, for example, they have these buttons that have very sharp corners, but actually the way you interact with the buttons is soft, like the animation that happens is very, very soft. Okay. So what you guys can do after the event, you can go on the website from the chat, and you can make a list of things you like about them, and then think about why you like them. So there's usually going to be a thinking process that's behind these different UX decisions. So you want to see if you can deconstruct them, and then see how they can be relevant to you and your website. And we have some really cool tools on here. You don't have to worry about these too much because, like Lakshmi said, you'll get the presentation later. And then for the ultimate user experience improvement, we recommend that you go research Material Design Guide by Google. And it's basically a guide on how to create most intuitive designs. That's really good. So moving further. So we're going to be moving to value propositions, but this is also related to our second point from before. So, identifying which of your ethics are attractive to your customers, but also why they are useful to them. So this part is a bit more about marketing and copywriting, but it's such an important element of every website. We thought it's worth spending some time on it. Okay, sorry. So value props or value propositions. So value propositions is what value your product or your service offers to its users. And this is going to be very similar to the benefits of what you're selling, but it's also about highlighting how it will be useful to them. So it's about how your product or service will make someone's life better. And so Crash Course has a really good definition on this on the YouTube video. So they say, typically, a value proposition is a sentence or a paragraph that clearly articulates what your service, business, organization does, who it brings value to, and why it's valuable to these people. So instead of just listing different products on your homepage, you want to, again, be telling what the benefits of them are, how these products will enhance someone's life. And you can read about this a little bit more in that julian.com article on the side, which is really good. So going back to our Vessi example, they say their shoes are breathable, which is great. And that's the benefit of the product. But they also go on to describe how it is of value to customer. So they go on to say, our knit lets the sweat and heat escape, keeping your feet fresh while keeping the water out. And most of the time, this can be linked to the ethics of your business. So, a conscious customer will love that you're a purpose-driven brand, but the real bonus point is going to be if you can tell them how it's going to be useful to them. So, for example, you're saying you're selling reusable razors as an example, and it's eco-friendly and it's sustainable, which is great. But for the customer, it will also mean that they will spend much less money over time. And also they are replacing something they buy very often with a one-off purchase. Okay, so now we're moving on to page speed. And page speed isn't directly user experience, but it's very directly linked to it. So I want it all, and I want it now. DoubleClick by Google found that 53% of mobile site visits were abandoned if a page took longer than 3 seconds to load. So I want you to think back to our drunk user. Everything has to be instant for them. And most people's threshold for waiting is basically non-existent anyways. But in order to compete with anyone, we have to accommodate for that. And Google knows this. Google also wants it all, and Google wants it now. Like faster websites will be better websites for the users, because Google's job is like to give the user the best website, the #1 listing on Google, right? So it's going to be unavoidable that Google will look at page speed as a factor in ranking your page. And this is probably, and I say probably because who knows what Google actually thinks, directly measured by them. And even if it isn't directly measured, it will show through user behavior. So say if 70% of your users leave your website within 5 seconds, maybe it's because it didn't load fast enough. But why would Google think that you're a good match for people looking for whatever it is you're selling? It either means that the experience isn't good, like the website took forever to load, or that the content they can see on your Google listing, so like your page title, your description, that made them go on your website in the first place, doesn't actually match what they can see on the website when they land on it. And that's also going back to the point from before about clickbaity titles. Okay, so practical ways to improve page speed. All the things I'm going to be talking about will be applicable to like any kind of a website. It doesn't matter if you have a hand-coded website or a Wix setup or it's a WordPress website. It should work. And these may be a little general, but I think these are some good core principles that we should try to maintain. So content delivery networks. So CDNs are basically like international setups of servers. It's a service that a company provides, and they work by keeping cached versions of your files on their server and then delivering these files to the user based on where the user is. So what they do is they basically minimize the physical distance between the data and the user, which makes it faster because it's less distance to travel. And yeah, it's an awesome service. It's great. It's free. It's really easy to set up, and we use it ourselves. Cloudflare provides free CDN as a service, and yeah, they're great. So optimizing images. Yeah, images will most likely be the biggest in terms of file size elements on your website, and that's why because everything else will pretty much be just text. So that's why it's so important to pay attention to size in pixels of your images, the format of your images, and optimizing your images. So obviously, if you're loading a ton of images to your website very often, then you will want to use a bulk solution. So probably a piece of software that will do it for you, or a plugin that will apply it to the whole website. But if you're not, then ideally you want to do it by hand or one by one to get the best results. And this can be a bit of a pain, but the payoff can be amazing. And we have some resources on the site to do that. Again, you don't have to worry about those right now so much. And yeah, the last point is Google PageSpeed Insights. So this is an amazing tool that's provided by Google to us. And not only is it the main benchmark which we should use to determine page speed, because we want to appease Google, but it also gives us very strict, measurable, and actionable guidelines on how to make websites faster. And that's it from me. So thanks for listening to what I have to say. And we can do questions now if there are any. I'll pass it back to Lakshmi now. Thank you.
Thank you guys for clapping. Everyone's saying, "Oh, I'm sold." Zims, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. is saying, "I'm sold." Awesome. Taylor is saying, "Thank you, Dom. That was great." And yeah, you did such a fantastic job writing the presentation and also doing the slides. Thank you so much for that.